Welcome to another episode of the Biker PM. I'm your host, Anthony Pavelich. Today we have part 2 with Tenin Terrell. So if you haven't listened to the first part, stop now, go back and catch up. So let's continue.
I wanted to ask you a question, but I'll
No,
wait.
go ahead.
Okay. One of my questions for you is what do you think are the biggest reasons why people don't go ahead and either invest in putting their processes in place or push themselves to set up these processes? Because I tend to run into people who know they need it, but they just kind of dismiss it like, oh yeah, and just stay stressed
I think
out.
it's fear of how complicated it could be to do. And that's why I wrote the article I did, actually, because it can be pretty simple. I mean, the article talks about if you are doing like stuff on the computer, like I have hired out editing my podcasts, a couple months ago because it's so time consuming. But what I did is when I edited it and when I did it, I actually just did a screen recording of me doing it. And then you just take that screen recording, and I actually had that same person that's doing the podcast write the procedure for it and write the policy for it. So what it is, it's just like that way nothing is missed. And you have a visual record of what every step that you have to take. And then you can just take screenshots from that recording, plug it into a document. You have that recording if you ever want to have anybody watch it for a visual training. So if they don't understand to read, you have the visual recording. That's just one way that, I found an easy way to record, the procedures because it's there, it's documented.
I love that because it was simple. One of the tools, and I should have mentioned this earlier, you asked what tools I love to use. One of the things I love to use is Loomly. It's like a video recording software. It's right in your browser. It can record you, just you, or your desktop, or whatever, both. And I love it because I'm able to do just what you said. And you're right. Then I can send it to my VA and she creates little timestamps and notes and you're right, it's simplification. It's simple, but I guess it takes experts like you enlightening us with how to do it.
It
You
is. I
know,
use Loom too. Yeah, I use Loom. I've used it for interviews too because it's easy. It's web based. So, because a lot of times when you don't necessarily, you're not able to meet with everybody at the same time. So it's like, here are some questions, do a video response to it, and then it's one way to do interviews. The other way that I've done them is I did it as a test. So here's a podcast, edit it, and let me see how you do. And then from that, it's like great. But yeah, I mean, because like posting the podcast, everything. I mean, I was able to you screen record it, shows you all the steps. It's easy. And then you can go back through and review it and make sure they captured the idea. But
I love it. To be honest, I tend to work with a lot of people who are starting up, whether it's a nonprofit, a business, a brand, what have you. Everybody tends to focus so much on the design, the pretty
yeah,
stuff, like the logos and this and that. And I get it. At this point in the game, I understand when you're starting up, you want to have something to show the world that you're doing this thing. But I often find that even when I'm trying to consult with clients and advise them, like, hey, maybe create a little list for this or a process around this. Sometimes they don't understand the importance in the beginning. And so how soon, I'm sorry, I don't want to interview you, but
I'm
I
good.
just
It's okay. Roles have changed.
okay. But like
Welcome to the Biker PM.
I mean
This is your host, Tanin.
Anthony. Oh my goodness. But I'm just so excited because as a business owner now, I geek out
I
over
do too.
process. Like it helps. Yeah. I mean, the franchise world, our favorite businesses are run on processes. And so like I admire people like you who bring that into the world for us,
Thank you.
for our benefit. So
I'm trying.
yeah, I really do. No, I appreciate you, really. And so I guess my question was like, how soon do you think should you be prioritizing process in a business, in a brand, in a startup?
I think they need to be there from the beginning. A lot of times you're not going to know what your process is. So even just simple checklists in the beginning, something very simple of a step-by-step checklist. That's not a real in-depth process that somebody can go back and my favorite type of process to do is, like I said, to do the recording, because then you can take screenshots and you have a step-by-step visual process that anybody can follow. But in the beginning, you're going to tweak it a lot because you're trying things out. So even just like a checklist of like, this is what I'm going to do for a client meeting. I'm going to put together my slide deck. I'm going to make sure that I practice the timing. I'm going to make sure that the meeting notification is set. Whenever we can actually meet in person again, are you booking where you're going to meet? There's a lot of temporary office spaces. You can just rent a boardroom if that's what you need, So just a checklist of what you have to do so you don't miss anything, because you don't want to get to the meeting date and realize I forgot to book the room, or I forgot to make sure I have sticky notes and pens so that everybody can do a brainstorming session or whatever it is. But so I think like a checklist, even just a simple checklist in the beginning. I mean, for myself, I use Trello a lot. I love Trello.
Yep. Trello's the dope.
Yeah, for each of from different clients, I use different things. One of my clients, we use Avasa. A client that I have in the States, one that I've just been working with for a couple of months, I set her up on ClickUp, which is a really good little tool that allows. She's a bookkeeping company, so she has a lot of recurring tasks for all of her clients, so it's easy. So I think it's just making that short little list and expand it. And then when you have something that you know is good, even though like you change your processes, you improve them as you deal with different clients. But when you have something solid, then write it, in a good document, because once you start getting clients and you start bringing on team members, you're not going to have the time to go back and do it later. You need to do it when you have the time. Because later on, when you're trying to train people, you're going to be so busy trying to sell that you really aren't going to have as much time to write it down and document it at that time. And then if you let somebody else document it at that time, they're going to miss out. So I'm going to take back the interviewer role here.
Okay.
Because I do want to find out about, you started this out in your parents' table. Did you ever have to get any funding? Were you able to do this from the beginning without funding, and then it just grew into your business? How did this all work for you?
Okay, so we were completely self-funded, and to this day still are.
Great.
And I tell people, we grow at the speed of cash, which is hard, but it works for us because personally, I am a bit debt averse. So I'm very mindful of borrowing, and whether it's personal or investors. That's just me personally. My other business partners are not so much. And my partners are my mom and my sister. But but because I'm the one who tends to be I am the business manager and kind of like helm the ship in that way. They kind of defer to me on that. And so we've grown at the speed of cash. And it wasn't something we ever thought about until we ran out. So I will say this, let me be completely honest. In the beginning, my mom did invest about probably 50, 60 grand into the whole initial my musical project launch, which only had us scratch the surface at that time. And I think now, like, if we had that money now and the tools we have, the technology we have now, it would go a lot farther, especially if we could keep our insights, like the things we know
Yes,
now. Right?
exactly.
That's the key. The key is to keep what you know.
It's like a lot of people are like, I would love
But
to be 20 again, but with what I know now. It's like, yeah, that doesn't work that way.
exactly,
It doesn't work that way.
they're like, no, you're just gonna be young again. You're like,
You're just gonna be young and dumb again.
but yeah, that's it. And I'm like, no, I'll stay here. I'll be all right. So back then, even though we had these like exciting accomplishments, there was no digital music distribution was still kind of new. Like artists really owning social media and becoming influencers that were guiding their own career was like really new. Like no one was really, I mean, the Kardashians were just really
Yeah.
starting to run reality TV and take over. They were at the early takeover. So it was an interesting time, but she did invest probably 60K in the beginning. It got us enough clientele in the beginning that we could start leveraging that into an ongoing business practice.
Do you feel overwhelmed, overstimulated, and overworked? There's so much that you need to do, but you don't know what the best way to do it is? And you're not sure where all your time goes each week? Jump on over to my website, pavproconsulting.com. You can download my free PDF, The 5 Proven Strategies to Steal Back Lost Time and Money in Your Business. And while you're there, you can book a free process discovery session. pavproconsulting.com. Move forward with confidence, focus, and productivity. Great. So with everything that you've done, what advice would you have for somebody that wants to start out on their own and go out and be an entrepreneur?
My biggest pieces of advice is to verify your idea, your concept. I'm a fuzzy, feel good, happy person, but I am not pie in the sky when it comes to business because it's real. It's real cash that you either have to work your 9 to 5 or to support your 5 to 9, or you have to abandon that type of security. So you need to have an idea that's verified and by more than your family and friends. Family and friends, we love them, but you need to have it verified by tastemakers in your industry. They don't have to be, world renowned, but someone who knows what they're talking about in your industry, in your area, your region, should be able to verify that this is workable. And I would challenge you to get you want to get someone to pay you to do what you do, because that is business. That's trade. And that's what you're doing. So that would be honestly my tip. And I like to make that important because plenty of contributors, like whether you read blogs or you read the papers, whether you listen to podcasts like yours, there are many thought leaders and voices who are telling people, go start, hustle, make it. And I can see like we're starting to pull back off of hustle culture in business and start up a little bit. The real thing, you have to do business. You have to go out there and verify your idea and get people to pay you to do it
Yeah,
consistently.
consistently is the key. So is being an entrepreneur, having your own business, something you've always thought you wanted to do, or was it just that moment in time when you're like, oh, I want to be Beyonce, that you decided that you're going to be an entrepreneur?
But I've grown up in a very entrepreneurial family. So when I was young, my parents always had side hustles or side gigs. My mom's a singer too, and she played piano. She's a pianist. So she played for different choirs and would get paid to do that. My father and both my parents are teachers. So like they have master's degrees and stuff, but they were educators. They would always have like side hustles and projects and jobs, and people paid them. My mom would cater regularly, like few years she catered for a YMCA, a Young Men's Christian Association. They would do like a monthly food giveaway, and she would cook the food for the dinners, and they paid her. So I've always come from a very entrepreneurial family. And I remember the first thing I ever sold, and it was leaves. Like we had taken computer paper.
I went outside, pulled leaves
You
off the
know, like,
tree, and was like, here, buy a leaf.
listen, you will not believe it. Okay, this is how you know you're an entrepreneur. We took white computer paper, me, my sister, and brother, and we had glued some leaves on it, like some fall leaves. And I don't know, like literally that was it. We wrapped it in saran wrap because packaging is
Okay, it
everything.
is.
Yes, I was 7, and we sold it to our neighbors. We sold it to 3 neighbors. They paid us whatever they want. I think we made like 25 cents, and that was the first thing I ever sold. And it felt it felt like wonderful to make something and have people pay you for it. And so I guess once I matured into a high school student, I never thought like, oh, let me be a business owner. But that seed of
Yeah,
entrepreneurship was there all along.
the leaves.
The leaves. Who
Right?
knew?
I just see you now as leaves as your logo and it's a secret little identity of why they're.
Come on, Anthony. Yes, deep branding. I like that.
It's like, well, I have a little gargoyle that is in everything I do. It's a tribal little gargoyle, and it's actually a tattoo I have.
Wow, I like that. So it's
Yeah.
you in every little.
And if you look at my website and everything, you'll see it batted around in different areas, but it's just part of me that's there. My gargoyle is your leaf.
Oh, exactly.
Is there a resource that you would suggest, something that inspires you to our listeners?
Oh, that is a great question.
A book or something that, or a person that's like, this is besides Beyonce.
Mhm. Right? Oh my goodness. Okay, so a book that I really love is called Effortless Entrepreneur. And I can't remember the authors, but they were the guys who started the company College Hunks Hauling Junk.
Okay.
And I read that, yeah, and I read that book, and I've read other business books, but for whatever reason, that book stayed in my mind. And I think it was because they literally detailed how they got their mom's van one summer. They were broke college students, and they borrowed their mom's van, started hauling, just put up signs. It's a mix of that, like guerrilla marketing, and also understanding the journey to scale.
Yeah.
That's why I love that book. And I felt like I it gave me a path, like a vision of what my path can be like. And it's just real, and grassroots, and I
Inspiring.
like that. So yeah, it's inspiring. So effortless entrepreneur, definitely them. And then I'm just always reading. I love LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I would say, yeah, LinkedIn is a resource because even if you're not contributing to your community yet, you're staying up on trends, on the heartbeat, what's going on, and you can literally connect with people. Like
I'm
I
surprised how
attended
many
like
people still, especially entrepreneurs, don't use LinkedIn. That surprises me more than anything, because I mean that's a great resource just to connect, just to, even if, like you said, you're not contributing, have your name out there, like people's posts, just at least like people's posts, people will see it.
exact. And because I would say because LinkedIn is still so slept on, you're right. You actually do kind of get a leg up with connecting. If you're DMing someone on Instagram, they get 100 DMs in a day. Someone popular enough does. If you're, trying to hit people up on Facebook, like Facebook is still active for a lot of people because some people make money on Facebook. I don't know if people know that, but
Yeah, I
like
do.
some people make money with Facebook, their videos and stuff like that, and have enough following. But nobody's really, it can be harder to reach people through those platforms. LinkedIn is about business. So if you're looking to connect with people, and they tend to be more real, like because they want to do
Yeah,
business.
it's more business oriented.
Yeah. So get on LinkedIn.
Great, thank you. And before we go, if people want to find out more about you and your company, what's the best place to do it? And LinkedIn, I'm sure.
LinkedIn, first of all, definitely LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you, be friends with everyone on LinkedIn. My name, you can use my name across all medias.
Okay,
It's Tenin Terrell. And so if you want to catch up with me on Instagram, I share little tidbits here and there. I'm Tenin TV, and then everything else. I have a website that's coming. It'll be TeninTerrell.com. So if you just Google Tenin Terrell, you'll find me and we'll be together.
great. Thank you so much, Tenin, for being here today. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much, Anthony. You're the bomb.com.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Biker PM. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur that wants to be with like-minded individuals and improving their project management skills, join the Biker PM Facebook group. Until next time.